Hello, and welcome to the Author's Corner as featured in the Own It magazine. My name is Marisa Bludorn. I am your host. I am the editor-in-chief of Own It magazine and publishing, and I'm so excited to have taken center stage and owning it with me today. A couple of my contributing writers for the Own It magazine, and it's Teresa Palmer and Coach Tiffany Para is in the house. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cough. I'm trying to work through this being over here in the US. Hanging out for a little bit. I'm here working with my younger sister, Judy, and she's building her business, Brown Lash Beauty, and Artie Batani, which is a artificial tree an interior decorating company. So I'm just here hanging out with her in the ATL. I'm really enjoying it. But as you can see, my background is not my usual background. I like this background though. Without further ado, let's dive on into we're here in the Author's Corner, and it's an exciting time. You know, this show is designed to just bring insight to and encouragement to individuals who are already published authors and those individuals who are looking to publish or get themselves published. And we have projects that we're working on. Some of these projects you can participate in, or you can actually purchase some of the books that we've already published. And so, Teresa, we're going to start with you. Would you take a little moment to introduce yourself? Let's say the audience has never seen you before and they don't know what book you published or who you are. And so would you share with them? And then Tiffany, you go right after Teresa and just share who you are. And then also too, Tiffany, because I know you had some publishing projects underway and also a retreat. Share with the people about your stuff and what you have going on. Teresa, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Teresa Palmer. I'm a master's prepared nurse practitioner, and my expertise is holistic cardiology. And what I do with my patients, my clients, is I help them to look at their heart from a whole 360-degree perspective. And what I mean by that is it's like a bird's eye view. It's like the eagle flies high, and when the eagle looks down, the eagle sees everything, not just a limited view from the ground. So I do that with people with their heart, because what I've seen in the medical profession, I've been in it over 30 years, is a lot of times, number one, we don't think about our heart until something goes wrong, because it's just automatic that our heart beats. We don't have to think about it. And secondly, that because we don't think about our heart until something goes wrong, most of Western medicine is designed around treating heart problems. So somebody will go to somebody like myself with either an irregular heartbeat, a heart that's either not beating properly, not functioning properly, maybe a heart attack. We use terms like heart failure, heart disease, heart attack. Even, broken heart is used a lot in romance. So what we tend to look at the heart from that disease perspective. And really, it's just a condition. And there's always something you can do to help yourself. So when you look at the heart from a 360-degree perspective, it's how can my heart help me on a daily basis? And our heart certainly can, because I look at our heart as our superpower, because it sustains life. It gives life even in the womb. The mother's heartbeat gives life to the unborn child. When you're born, you could only sustain life when your heart beats. If your brain stops working and your heart is still beating, that's still life. So that's how important the heart is. So when we look at the heart as our superpower, what can our heart do to help us? Number one, it could help us manage stress, because if we could process our feelings through our heart, it gives us time to sit with it, because the brain is a pre-programmed response and the brain is designed for survival. So if we look towards our heart first, we could get our brain to calm down, and we can get our heart and brain on the same page. And that's done through the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve. And there's a lot written and a lot of talk and everything now about the vagus nerve, about the peace and calm that it provides. So when if your heart connects to your vagus nerve, then you're connecting to peace and calm, which turns off the stress hormones. Also, we have a voice in our heart that as adults, we've been conditioned not to listen to. We've been told that logic takes over. Again, not feelings, and a lot of it is societal. We start to lose not only that voice in our heart, but our own voice because we become conditioned that not to be who we really are because we want to fit in with everybody and everything else. So I teach my patients and my clients how to connect to their heart, how to gain that voice in their, not only in their heart, but that voice that they can then be authentic and say what they mean, who they are, without any aggression, without any threats, without any fear, being able to speak up and to be authentically who we are, because our heart also connects us to that higher power. And it doesn't matter what you believe that higher power is, there is a power higher than us. And when we connect to that higher power, we also know that there's things that we can't control. And we don't try to control everything, and we don't stress out trying to control everything. And that's what my book, Heal Your Heart from Within, is all about. It's about giving power back to the individual so that they could be empowered, not only with their health, but with their life. And also, they could be empowered to become a partner with their healthcare provider, be able to ask questions, be able, again, because you're looking at the heart from this broad perspective and not boxing yourself into illness and disease, but looking at it more from the perspective of, okay, I have a heart condition, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing that I can do to help myself. And it's a complementary care to everything else that you're doing. So I will turn it over to Tiffany.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me share the stage with you, beautiful ladies, this morning. I am Coach Tiffany Para, editor-in-chief of Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine, also founder of the Girl Powerhouse Network. We have 3 books out currently, the Becoming a Girl Powerhouse, Volume 1, 2, and 3. And those are stories of their 45 women sharing their stories from trauma to triumph. Because, you know, I've learned in life that your story is not your story. It's someone else's story. It's someone else needs to hear that. They need to hear how you got over, how you conquered and championed through life and got through all that turbulence and got to the other side while they're sitting here crawling, trying to get out of there. So it's not your story, it's someone else's. And you can really save a life by truly sharing your authentic self and your journey. So currently we are working on 2 new books. And this, I tell you, I have gotten very comfortable being uncomfortable. So we have 2 books with both men and women. It's called Unsnapped. And Unsnapped it's an acronym, and it is a long acronym, but a very powerful acronym. So I'm going to tell you what it means. It means understanding necessary solutions needed to apply positive principles, ending destruction. What do you do to stay calm, cool, and collected in today's crazy world so you're not adding to the destruction? So if you have a story of being able to stay calm, cool, and collected when someone has been pushing your buttons and just pushing you to the brink, to that edge, connect with me. Let's go ahead and write the story together in the Unsnapped anthologies. They are going on right now. We need a few more good women and a few more good men to come and share the stage with us in this project. And it is a 6-month project. We have brought some great coaches to come and gleam on all the authors. And at the end, we're going to celebrate with a conference here in California in Rancho Cucamonga. The women's conference is 222, so February 22nd, and the men's conference is the following weekend on March 1st. We have some amazing speakers. We are still looking for some men to come up and share the stage. So if y'all want to, I know there's some speakers out there. So if y'all want to come and share an important message to really help, get some people to the other side, definitely connect with me and let's take the stage together and shine. Okay. Let's see what else. There are so many different things going on. I tell you, we also just started doing bestseller campaigns. Now we know there's a lot of new authors out there, and there's some authors that have been sitting on their books and their books haven't been going anywhere, right? So we have come together, we have joined forces with some amazing people to help you to become Amazon bestsellers. So if you are interested in becoming a bestseller, you want to connect with me as well. And I'll be sharing that at the end. So thank you so much, Marisa.
That is so awesome because who knew that you could actually become a bestseller? And some of these things we've taken for granted. I know when I published many moons ago, bestseller wasn't even something that an average person would try to achieve. We just didn't. We were so excited about being self-published and having control over our content that we weren't even thinking about bestseller. That was the next wave. And so it's wonderful that you're offering that service to, priorly published individuals to come out and republish and become Amazon #1 bestseller. So that's incredible and an amazing opportunity for them. So you're listening in. You want to make sure that you connect with Tiffany on all that she's doing. The Unsnap, which I'm participating in on the women's side, which to me is so important because Teresa and I was talking yesterday in regards to all the chaos that's out here. And again, having your mind and your heart in alignment requires self-awareness. It requires a consciousness of self in a positive way, not negative. It's so that you really get the results out of life, out of your body also too, that you really want. Case in point, I think I was sharing this last week in regards to squeezing my legs as I'm working out. I'm squeezing my legs because I want to know what muscle is actually responding to the movement of the exercise. Why did I do that? Because I want to make sure that the area or where I'm intentionally exercising is actually hitting the muscle or the area of the body that I intended it to. That's awareness. That's being intentional and focusing and being strategic on your desired outcome, not just saying, oh, well, you know what? Just like Teresa said, I'm sick, my heart is bad, it is what it is. No, when you really want, this is the difference between someone who is just average and will just accept any information that's given to them, or the one that is above average that says, I don't think so. I'm gonna check out something else. That sounds great. And you don't have to when you're thinking about all of the different options that's placed before you and all the information that's being given to you. It's individual perspectives. It's subject matter experts perspective, and it's what they've been privy to, the knowledge, the resources, the information. It's what they've been privy to and what logically they made the determination to align with, right? So we have that same right. We don't have to be nasty to people when we don't agree with them. We don't have to be rude. We don't have to, as Teresa said, get violent. We don't have to do any of that. We can calmly say, I respect and receive what you're saying, but I'm going to check this out. I'm going to check out some other sources. We want to become more aware of ourselves and aware of our ability to make our own choices. And then we have to be bold enough to, like Teresa said, not conform to everything, but to be able to make our own sound decisions. And Unsnapped is one of those things where it's the authors are coming together to give you a way to not snap, right? And if you have snapped, get out of that, start unsnapping, right? This is critical because this addresses the issue of mental health, right? Not in diagnosed mental health, because if there's things that are outside your control, um, then they are. But there, if it's about perspective, it's about mindset, it's about attitude and behavior, that can be addressed by just seeing things from a higher place. Teresa talked about the ego soaring high so he can see everything, see the full perspective. When you can take an individual and calm them down enough to not snap out, to say, hey, do you understand that there are consequences for your actions and your behavior? And if you don't want these results, then you have to change this approach. And it's so important. So we do that in literacy. So we do that in our writing and being an author, just like you shared, Tiffany, how it's important that we understand that our story is not just our own story, but it's the story of many, because the only difference between many of us is our personality and our life experiences. But in general, we all are living our life, right? In general, we're all living this life. The complexity comes into how we see the life, the different variables, how we see the life, how we, and I forget which psychologist talked about this, and I don't want to misquote it, but it's called the schema. Is how we see the world and how we interact with the world. And that starts off when we were little kids, and in our home environment. Is like, how was the traditions, behaviors modeled in the household? How did they form our schema, how we see the world and how we engage and interact with the world? And then that determines, so we have to, all of this writing and this material and everything else that we're sharing really helps us to navigate through this thing called life. The stories, also too, novels, the like Gail, who does the coffee fairy tales. We sometimes need an escape from our own life so that we can be inspired. And so what Gail's books do, and we're just giving you a shout out, Gail, what Gail's books do is take you away for a little while. Books take you on a vacation sometimes. Can I step away? Can I retreat to refresh and reset? And that's what literacy, remember, before we had books, before we had television, we had books, we had literature, right? I know I'm speaking. Listen, that was before my time, but hello, it was close enough to when I was born that I remember the black and white TVs and when they went from black and white to color. But we got our imagination, our excitement, our inspiration from writing, poetry, escaping. Literacy is so critically important to help us with our mental state, to realize that someone else is going through this, or someone else imagines like I do, like coffee fairy tales, that romance, and that romance still can be alive. And I'm glad that we came to this, because Teresa, I'm one of those people that if I see a guy and I really like him, I'm very, very passionate. And I was thinking about what you said yesterday in regards to if you fall in love well, I'm one of those people. I don't fall in love with everybody. But when I do like you, I like you. So that's my personality. So we all have different personalities and different viewpoints. And that's what literacy allows us to do. That's what written information, that's what all of this TikTok, Instagram, all this, when it's done in a healthy way, when you know yourself first, you can engage in all of this information and find the people that speak your language, the people that really resonate with your heart and your instincts. And so I'm really excited, and I'm excited, Tiffany, that you didn't just do women with Unsnap, that you chose to take the opportunity to invite men in, because men need to be brought into the table. And I'm glad Lawrence is a part of that. Did any of the other contributing writers for Own It participate? Or
Yeah,
male?
Jeffrey Berger is
Okay.
in Unsnapped Mints, and also Barry Ricomo.
Perfect. I was going to ask you about Barry because I know that Barry was sharing with me he wants to be in the other, writing projects. And he's really excited. He's also in his presence. So Barry participated in his presence. And it's just so important for us to, Teresa speaks to it, getting in alignment with your mind and your heart. And writing does that. Writing is therapeutic, both to the writer, the author, as well as to the reader. And it really helps. I remember, being in high school, I wrote a lot of poetry. And I'm like, what happened to me? What happened to that part of me? I gotta get that part back. But I wrote a lot. And I remember sharing, I don't know if it was last week on this show, that I wrote a lot to my brother. My brother was in the Navy while I was in high school. And I remember writing a lot to him. And it was helpful because, it gave me something to look forward to, right? It gave me something to get excited about. He wrote back to me, so I look forward to his writings and his adventures of being a Navy man. And so writing is so. What does it says? Reading is fundamental. And I always say that knowledge is power, but knowledge applied in real life is powerful. It's powerful in building up one's confidence of self. It gets you in tune with yourself, right? It makes you so bold that Teresa and I was talking, and I know I'm referencing her whole show from yesterday, but we talked about, you shared a story about, someone, being with friends and they like eating pizza all the time, and that friend doesn't like eating pizza. But it gives you, when you spend enough time building up your self confidence, not to be arrogant, but when you build yourself up and then you really get in tune with your goals, your life goals, and you become intentional with them, it becomes easier and easier for you to say, I love you, but I'm not doing that. I love you. This is a great idea. And then also too, it works two ways, right? So we also have to, we have to compromise and do some things that we don't really like doing, to participate in groups in our village, right? But then our village also has to do things that they may not like that we like, right? So it's a two-way street, when it comes to that. And then, so in this time of reading and writing, you begin to find yourself. And I think that that's one of the things that I could attribute to, as growing up. I had friends, but I spent a lot of time, not intentionally, but I spent a lot of time alone. And in that process, I really got to know myself very young. And in doing so, I believe, and I'm only in all these conversations and all these interviews, am I beginning to see, wow, this is why you are this is why you are the way that you are. You're comfortable with being by yourself because you have been by yourself. You're comfortable with being, like I said, I think I shared this yesterday, Dr. Seuss says, why fit in when you were born to stand out? That we were born to stand out. We weren't not born. That's where complexity comes from, because we're individuals, not because we're complicated. It's because we're individuals and we have our own individual desires. We have group desires, we have commonalities, but we also have individuality, and we have a right to be individuals. We have a right to not always want pizza. We have a right to want to be in coffee fairy tales and be unsnapped. And then there's times when we got to catch ourselves because we do snap, right? So it's okay to be all of that, as long as, like Teresa says, we learn how to balance and regulate ourselves through mind and heart, regulate those emotions. So even though I'm passionate, I also am self-aware enough to know that I can be too passionate and that everyone's not ready to receive that. So even though I can fall in love, I can see a potential mate and be like, yeah, he's it. It's not necessary that he's ready for what I have. And so I have to also be, understanding and logical about the fact that everybody has not had my life experience, men, women alike, and they may not be able to handle, because I'm born and my birthday is October the 29th. So that says enough for you, is that I know who I am. I love very deeply and very passionately, and I will guard what I love with all my heart. And so that tells you what kind of person I am. But I know in self awareness that everybody can't handle all of me. So I regulate that. And I don't regulate that with compromising myself. I regulate that with a balance, of compromise, give and take, and understanding that. And this is why it's so important. I remember reading some in one group is talking about alone time. It's so important for us to have that alone time so that we can remain unsnapped. There's a song I shared, and I don't know. I'm crazy for Jesus, and I always say this. There's a song by Lauren Daigle, "Tremble," and I tremble. When I'm in your presence. I woke up and I listen to stuff in seasons, right? So in time spans. And so that song has what I call an anointing on it. And it has an anointing for me in this time period. So when something like that happens, I will listen to that song over and over and over, because I want it to penetrate. I want to be in that moment of it so that it transforms me and it unsnaps me. Someone would call that meditating. That's what I do. It's a song that I like to listen to. But it gives you that, that relaxed. It's a beautiful, I don't know, Tiffany, did you get a chance to listen to it?
I did. Yeah.
Oh my,
Yes.
isn't it? And I love how it shifts over to the calypso and and Teresa, if you didn't see it, because I shared it in the old DR group this morning, but if you know, it's on my thread, so you can it's beautiful, the song, and then the lyrics. I'm big on lyrics. I'm big on words. What are the words before I can surrender myself to it? It's what are the words that are being said, and then do I agree with these words? Do these words resonate with me? And then I will release myself. Then I am surrendered to it, to get the fullness of the experience of what it is. It's not just for me listening to a song. It's actually being transformed, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. It's being transformed. It's allowing the song to permeate through my spirit and take me to another level. And so that is what I do. But like I said, with literacy, it's critically important for us to, and I like a physical book. So I do have Teresa's books, and I do have Tiffany's books as well. I love physical books because you can take them and you can flip through the pages. You can go back. And I'm one who writes in my book. So if I get revelation, so I believe that God is speaking to me while I'm reading, right? Anything I've written in my Bibles. So it's not like, oh, you can't write in this. You can't. I don't do that. If I get a revelation and it's in a particular area, I believe that learning gets transferred. Owning the knowledge that you're just receiving gets transferred when you put it in your own words, right? When you put it in your own words, it just becomes a part of your DNA. And so I write in the books that I read, because and some people may say the universe is giving them this knowledge. Whatever you believe whatever you believe. I believe it's revelation from heaven, and I write what I get out of it so that I can own it, so that my life can be transformed by it. Sometimes if you just read it, it just becomes something that you have done and it's easily forgotten. I don't want to forget what I've learned. And so reading to me is fundamental. It is fundamental. Remember that was it at Sesame Street, or was it in the Electric Company? Sesame Street, right?
I think it was that.
PBS. It's PBS.
PBS.
Reading is fundamental. And so, anyway, we're up on our half hour. Teresa, any closing thoughts? I know I rambled on, but I just want folks to really understand the importance of not, we're not just talking talk. We're saying to you that you got to become aware of yourself. If you want your life to be changed, if you want to be an author that is unapologetic about what you've written, and you can own what you've written, these are some of the things that this is the insight, the perspective that you're going to have to really grab a hold of to have the confidence, the boldness, and the audacity to realize that you do have a right to write. So, Teresa?
Okay, thank you so much. I think what we have to remember, I wrote a book that's a self-help. It's not a memoir. But I think as an author, when people do the anthologies or they do a memoir, they always have to remember that the story's not about them. It's what they can give to the reader. So if you're involved with or thinking about being involved with an anthology or doing a memoir, unless you're a famous celebrity, it's hard for people to really just want to know your story because everybody wants to know, and by rights, what's in it for them. So if you've gone through something where you've snapped, or you've had a hardship, or you've dealt with depression or anything like that, it's always what brought you out of that and using that to help people. So I think that's always an important for anybody who is an aspiring author out there, that it's not your story, it's what you give to the reader. How can you help the reader, and what do they learn by either what you've gone through, your experience, maybe your experience with other people, maybe teaching. So my book is written from the perspective, it is for the layperson, but it's written because of my patients. These are things that I taught my patients. These are things that help my patients thrive and not just survive, even during 2020. So that's really how the whole book came around. A patient said to me, "Why don't you write a book? You're giving us all these tips and tools. Everybody needs to know these things." So even though it's a self-help, it would be, the genre is self-help, it's an experience book because these tools have worked for the past 20 some years, 24 years, with patients that I've been dealing with. So that's what I have to say. It's always about the reader. It's not about us as writers. It's about what we give to people that want to read and share our book.
Yeah, you're so right, and that's exactly why when I chose to do my anthologies, I made sure that we not only had we had a lesson inside. So when we did Own It Unapologetic, there was each chapter, each author had to give them an engaging activity of transformation. What do they learn from this, and how do they transfer? And then the journal is always, like I said, is journaling the process. How do you own what you've read? You journal it, you look at what you've read, and then you've taken it and you transfer it into how are you going to do this thing. So I totally agree with you. It has to be something that teaches them. What are your lessons learned and words of wisdom? So excellent. Tiffany?
Yes, no, both of you are absolutely right. You have to have those words of wisdom. You have to have that, that the education piece of, what are they taking from it? But my just words of wisdom or encouragement just to throw out there to everyone, any authors, any inspiring authors, just write it, just sit down, get it out. And, just my editor, T. Lachelle, said, shout out to T. Lachelle, she's amazing. She said, just take a bunch of blank pieces of paper and just write. It doesn't even have to make sense. Get it all out. And then, you can have someone like myself, or someone like, my editors, or someone like, Marisa, edit it and put it all together and have it just create brilliance. So just get it out, because once you get it out and you release it, you are going to feel so light, and you may be inspired to do other things that you may have been fearful of. But just get it out, because your story is very powerful. And again, as these two ladies said, it is definitely not yours to hold on to. You definitely need to share it. And, you may have people that are very close to you that may be those naysayers. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just quiet all the noise and all the distractions and everything and just get it out. Okay. Because it's going to be amazing. So.
Yes. And just to say this, is there are 300 and blah 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 million people in the United States, just in the United States alone. 10 people are not going to say their stories. 10 authors are not going to capture all those stories. So, and this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so when you begin to think about that, don't discount yourself. Don't discount your story. And I know that people will say everybody shouldn't write. Okay, that's great. But let someone evaluate what you've written. Let someone look it over. Let someone give you some feedback on what you've written. I can remember hiring, and then we're going to close out. I can remember hiring my first publishing coach. And I gave her this is my first time ever writing. I gave her my story. Thank God for having a master's degree and all the writing I've done. So I know how to structure it out. I knew how to structure my story out. I knew how to, do my chapter outlines, etc., and submit it to her. And she told me exactly what I already knew. After paying her, she told me what I already exactly knew about myself. What that did for me, though, was it confirmed it, right? It confirmed it. This is a woman, who has done multiple, she's a publisher, she's a book coach, she's a publisher, well-to-do out of New York City. Met her in Arizona at a, what's her name? Angelique Powers, a conference there. And she was, she had it laid out. I always boast about her conference because it was amazing. She had everyone there that if you wanted to publish a book, if you wanted to plan a conference or any kind of event, she had everyone from lawyers. When I say to you, everyone from lawyers, attorneys to companies who had team building activities, because you can't find, when you're ready to do activities for coaching, they're not readily available to you. You got to find out companies that have these behavioral transformational activities and games. You got to find those companies. And so she had them, from serious event decorators. And so I was like, I really wanted to make sure that my book was on the up and up. I had someone who was coaching me, but I wanted to just have someone on a higher level to really look into my book. And it wasn't too much that she gave me back that was any different than what I already had. And so I say that to say, don't discount, trust your instincts, like Teresa and I talked about in Motivational Moments with Marisa, It's Your Life, Own It on Mondays. You got to trust your instincts, and don't let people discourage you when you feel like you have a heartbeat to write. And like Tiffany says, get it out of your system first. I always say, this is a tip. I'm going to leave you with this. What points do you want to make? What is critically important for the reader to take away from your writing? And if that's the case, I always say to you, with chapters, for me, make it simple on yourself and easy for the reader, because you want to make sure that your book is easy to get through. It's exciting, and it's something that people want to read it from cover to cover. And they have an easy time reading it from cover to cover, and that they can get through it. And so you want to make sure that write down your main points. And in those main points, put them in order. Order of behavioral transformation. What do they need to do first in order for them to get to step 2? What do they need to do in step 2 in order for them to get to step 3? And how do they get to change behavior or the outcome that they want by the end of your book? That's how you want to structure your chapters. And then come up with some exciting and thrillable titles that align with that messaging and that main point that you want to make out of that chapter. If that's not easy enough, and if you want to, just like Tiffany said, type it all. I always say, if you can type it all out. If you can't, and you don't type well, I type 120 words per minute. That's why I can do the stuff that I do. And yes, I do type 120 words per minute. Sit down and watch me do it. And my mind has so much going on, and I can go and write right away. You see, I could probably talk for an hour by myself. And so I just say that to say is, just like Tiffany said, write it all out and then organize it. What part of your story really belongs at the start? Remember, this is basic. You want a beginning, a middle, a climax, and an end, right? And so you want to be able to organize your story in such a way that it does have a logical start, middle, you want climax in there. You want something that really speaks from the heart, that will trigger something in the reader that is life-changing. And then you want to bring them right on out with a closing. And I hope that that's been a blessing to you. That was a tip just on the back of what Tiffany said, and just on what we're saying in general. Know thyself, and to thy own self be true. So we love you so very much. This has been the Author's Corner. Thank you so much, Teresa and Tiffany, for giving me your time this morning. And we gave you a little extra this morning. So we hoped our words inspired you and blessed you to go out right. Be fruitful and multiply. We're out.